Hi everyone, welcome back. I am Ashley Turner and I'm so excited to be here with my very dear friend and total soul sister, Alisa Vittì. And today we are celebrating the launch of her brand new book. It's called Woman Code. So definitely check it out. She just launched it and it's available everywhere books are sold, Amazon, all of the bookstores, barnesandnoble.com. And this is all about, Alisa is the creator of Flow Living. So this book is the Woman Code system, the Flow Living system. And she is the creator of flowliving.com. So check that out. It's F-L-O, flowliving.com. And this is actually the first online platform to help women with hormonal improvement. So it's really a phenomenon. It's such an honor to have you here. Alisa is a graduate of Johns Hopkins University and also the Integrative Nutrition Institute. So she created this whole system to help women really get empowered, not only in their health, but our hormonal health impacts, of course, every aspect of our life, our energy, our relationships, certainly our menstrual cycle, our fertility, our mental and emotional well-being. So this is something that I'm so passionate about with all my priestess work and empowering women. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm so thrilled about this book and all of this information that you are just encapsulating and offering in such an approachable way. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be on your show. Hello, everyone who's watching Ashley's show. I'm thrilled to be here and sharing this book, Birth, with you and all the juicy priestesses who are watching.
Yay! So obviously my whole approach is definitely mind, body, and weaving the Eastern and Western and a holistic approach, which I know is yours as well. And I want to just dive in specifically talking about fertility today, talking about the menstrual cycle, and not just for women, but for women and men to really understand this cycle and how we can optimize it, how we can optimize our hormones to just live a more empowered life. So maybe let's just start with the menstrual cycle and sort of the basics of hormonal structure. I know that's a huge question, but just give us a
big giant question, but I mean, I think the thing, there's two parts to the answer. The first part is, I think we don't look at our menstrual cycle as anything that's really valuable. We kind of look at it as like a throwaway thing. And when I was on Dr. Oz a couple weeks ago, I kind of made TV history talking about the color and texture of your menstrual cycle and how you can use that as a great indicator of where you are hormonally with estrogen and progesterone. There are four main colors and textures you're going to see. And I want women to understand what that means for them, because then they're empowered to make those small course corrections each month as opposed to waiting until there's a big, big problem. So that's the first piece. The second piece is understanding the four phases of your cycle and how those neurochemical and biochemical shifts really give you opportunity to be your most healthy, vibrant, and successful self. Whether you're trying to have a healthy period or have a baby or have a great sex life, even have a great relationship in terms of communicating. There's certain times of the month where you have different types of brain chemistry. Estrogen's flooding the brain in the first half of the cycle, making you more social and magnetic. And in the second half of the cycle, your right and left hemisphere is communicating across the corpus callosum. It's like this bundle of nerves that sits between the two hemispheres of the brain, making you more intuitive and analytical. So you have this tendency to want to think through things and see how you did and see where you want to go next. So, being able to and that's just one piece, right? Just being able to leverage all the opportunities that your body provides you to just rock your life is a really cool thing around getting into your cycle more. And of course, if you're dealing with symptoms, and I always like to say, I'm so tired of hearing women joking about their PMS, right?
I know, me too.
It's not cute.
I'm really passionate about that, about reframing it, about getting some really positive, empowering language around that. So when it's interesting, because for me, one of the things people inquire the most about is my priestess work. And what is that? What is the divine feminine? The divine feminine is your yoni, it's your womb, it's your menstrual cycle. It's how do you optimize this? Because this is in many ways, our power as women, it's directly linked into the health of our hormones in our womb. When are we more intuitive? When should we be making decisions? When should we be starting new projects? One of the first things I coach women on, and men, is giving themselves permission around the time of their bleeding or the new moon, if they're not bleeding, if they're, postmenopausal, or for men, use the time of the new moon to really draw back, take time to go in. So will you just break down sort of, because it took me a while to understand, and most of it's because we're never educated on this stuff. And I'm so grateful to you bringing this forth in such a great way. Break down the basics of the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, and then sort of what activities we should focus on in those different times.
Sure. So, the first phase is the follicular phase, and this is when we have sort of lower levels of all of the hormones involved in the cycle. From an ovary standpoint, you have multiple little follicles that are developing, one of which will mature and be the ovulatory egg. And, from a brain chemistry standpoint, this is a great time to start new things and, plan for the month ahead and project map and brainstorm, whether you're at work or at home or in your own business. Energy-wise, this is a time to, be at the gym and do cardio classes and try some new things, take that Zumba class or some new weird class you've been trying to take at the gym. Trying new things is the hallmark of the follicular phase. In the ovulatory phase, this is when we have a surge in estrogen and follicular stimulating hormone, and we also get a little surge in testosterone. So we have a really interesting combination of hormones that makes us very, very social and magnetic, and also our stamina is really high. So, if you're thinking about work projects, this is a time for negotiating. If you're thinking about relationship, this is a time for, first dates or fun dates with your partner. If you're thinking about exercise, this is like high-intensity interval training, insanity workouts, whatever you want to do that's really, really intense. This is the time when your body has the most ability to do that effortlessly.
So the first phase, I would say, is like planting the seeds. It's literally when your eggs are sort of brewing in the follicles. So planting the seeds. Yeah,
that's a brainstorming, it's project planning.
Projects.
And I always like to make it like really, really practical for what's happening in your life. Yeah. And, I think one of the reasons why the menstrual cycle has remained kind of something that we don't talk about.
Mysterious.
It has a lot to do with the fact that it's still tangled up in language like, moon and, this sort of seasonal stuff, which is fine. It's great. It's valuable. That's our heritage. But, it's the 21st century and we're modern women and we want a lexicon that feels more of the times for us. And I always think that, being in the language of the moment is a great way for all women to feel more connected to this thing in their bodies, Yeah. So then we have the luteal phase, and the luteal phase has 2 distinct parts. It has the crescendo and the decrescendo, right? The buildup of estrogen and progesterone to that peak point, and then assuming that there's no conception, it has the sort of drop-off of estrogen and progesterone. You do still have in the first half a slight surge in testosterone, so you can still do really great workouts at the gym. But this is a time where you're starting to have more of that analytical and intuitive information coming into play. So your tendency is to attend to details more. So I always say this time at work, wrap up projects, get things done, pay your bills, do your accounting, organize your closet, finish. Finish what you thought you needed to get done this month.
So this is right after you ovulate. So when you're leading up to ovulation is when, those eggs are growing, things are expanding, and then right after the ovulation is the luteal phase, right?
Correct. And then we move into the bleeding phase. And I always like to call it the bleeding phase because it's so confusing. It's a period. It's a menstrual cycle. What's the difference between the whole period and just the period part? Yeah. So let's just call it what it is. It's your bleeding time. That's what's happening. So when that's happening, we have that, like I mentioned before, right and left hemispheres of the brain highly connected. So we're much more able to listen to intuitive messages from our mind-body organism, right? And really understand how's your life working out for you? Not only just your self-care, but are you in alignment with where you should be going in your life? Are your relationships working out the way that they should? Is your career what you want it to be? Or is your social life what you want it to be? You're able to listen to that intuitive information, but then also because you have the left brain doing more of the analytical stuff, you're also able to analyze that information, interpret it, and make even just mental notes about next steps that you will then go ahead, once you're back in the follicular phase, start putting into a plan. So it's this beautiful, perfect circle. And if you look at the 10,000-foot view of the whole 4-week cycle and the neurochemical and biochemical aspects of the cycle, you're actually looking at the creation matrix. Which is really cool, right? Because everything in nature has a beginning, a growth phase, a harvest phase, and a sort of decline phase, and renewal, right? So we're constantly, as women, and you know, the subtitle of the book, Woman Code, is Perfect Your Cycle, Amplify Your Fertility, Supercharge Your Sex Drive, and Become a Power Source. And I define power based on what I've observed in 10 years of clinical practice at my center here, is that power is derived through our bodies, continuous, dynamic, cyclical pattern. We have inside of us this blueprint for continuous change. And what's so exciting about that is we're basically like natural change agents. So anything you want to make different in your life or in the world around you, you're hardwired, perfectly, ideally, beautifully set up to be a natural agent of change and to be in a position to take leadership. And if you're not interested in getting hormonally healthy for any other reason, I would say that's reason enough. Because if you're trying to rock it in your life, you need to have your hormones working for you, not against you.
And it's something that's, I think, really, you know, underestimated. I work with a lot of clients in my private practice that, you know, in particular women that are, you know, really dealing with massive struggles in hormonal balance. And I think, you know, one of the things that I really coach people on is our society in many ways is set up in this very patriarchal linear form. So it's harder for us to give ourselves permission to take that decrescendo or to take some time off or really take a few days a month to turn inward and let go. And I've recently done a lot of vlogs on that. And so just can you talk a little bit about, you know, how people can institute some practical lifestyle changes to honor, you know, I mean, you mentioned the energy and the exercise and stuff, but just some other things that anything you would recommend.
Well, for me, it's the yoga of living in alignment with your hormones is a process of letting go and de-stressing and decompressing in stages. You know, there are different ways in which you're engaging the body. Sometimes, you know, stress management actually has a lot to do with what you're not doing than things that you are doing. So, for example, what I mean by that from a physiological, endocrinological standpoint is if you're, for example, trying to go to a, you know, I don't know, boot camp class in the second half of your luteal phase, you're now working against the current of your hormones, and now you're putting stress on your adrenal glands. You're having cortisol levels go up, DHEA levels go down. You're going to be actually dampening your fertility and you know, overtaxing your adrenals, decreasing your sex drive, making your skin and hair look not so good, all because you have a thought in your head that says, "Oh, I should go do this." But if you live the yoga, the practice of partnering with these hormonal shifts, then you're not actually ever putting yourself in a situation where you're depleting. You're only ever nourishing, and each week is a different kind of nourishment. So I don't like to. I'm somebody who loves to do things. I like to be on the go. I mean, I have a business. I wrote a book. I just got married. You know, I like to be busy. I think we all do. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know, you have to kind of be on the go. And so I have a hard time with this concept of slowing down. You know, it doesn't compute with the way that I'm wired, and I think it doesn't for a lot of women. But how I've reframed that is, well, I'm not ever really slowing down. What I'm doing is working in a way that works for where I am hormonally each phase of my cycle. So I'm never, ever in a depletion process. I'm only in a build process.
Right. Nurturing.
So I'm always feeling good. Yeah.
Yeah. In yoga, there's a term, it's called krama marga, and marga means path, and krama means progression. Like, it's to be on the path of knowing which phase you're in. So for any activity, for a relationship, which phase are you in? Are you in the new part of a relationship? You're just building it. Okay, just be there. You know, don't try to be in this ripened state of we're so familiar and we're so in love. You're just right where you are. Same with your work projects or anything, you know, being a new mother. Are you in a beginning phase? Are you in the middle phase? Are you in the decrescendo? Are you in the renewal phase? And so,
and I think what's so beautiful about that is what you're saying is that we want to be in a position where we're more present and more in a relationship of trusting where we are in the present.
Yeah.
And I personally I don't know if I'm just like thick-headed or stubborn or what, but I can't get there. I can get there intellectually, like that sounds like a great idea. Let me be in the moment.
Yeah.
But I can't get there unless I get there through my body.
Right.
Right? I have to if I don't use the body as a tool to help me stay present or to help me to remind me where I am, I'm just like anybody else. I'm going to be on a trip somewhere else, you know, with my ego going somewhere else. And I need to lean into my body to help me stay in the moment. And I think that also builds this deep level of trust that my body can lead me, my ovaries lead me in the right direction. And if I'm trying to manifest something in my life, whether that be health or, you know, a book or whatever it is that you're doing, that it's all, there is a cycle to how these things are created. And this also brings up the concept of, you know, making a baby. And I work with a lot of women who are trying to get pregnant. And I love working with these women because I know they've gone through like several rounds of failed IVF, miscarriages, you know, IUIs. It's very, very stressful. It's very disheartening. And what's beautiful is getting them on the protocol, which is, you know, more expanded than just the cyclical eating piece. It has to do with balancing out the whole endocrine system. But once they start seeing these little signs of improvement, they start to immediately trust their bodies again. And I think the whole process of going through the infertility process, that trust is really stripped down, and you feel very alienated from this thing that is your evolutionary birthright, right? We're here to be conception vessels if we so choose. And what's beautiful about tapping into the power of partnering with your hormones and feeding your hormones happy is that you bear witness to the fact that your body is beyond powerful and can completely restore itself to balance. And, you know, women can get pregnant. I mean, just 2 to 3 generations ago, the reason why the birth control pill was such a watershed thing was because women couldn't stop getting pregnant in their 40s. You know, 48 years old and was on her 8th child. You know, so it's only been in the past 2 to 3 generations where we've seen a big epidemic of infertility coming up. And a lot of that stems from diet and lifestyle factors that are messing with our periods in our teens and 20s, and that carries through our fertility and postpartum and our libido and our perimenopause. How you do your period is kind of how your life is going to go.
Right.
So if period's not right and you've got PMS and you feel like 2 different people and everything is all over the place, that's kind of going to be your experience of health. And your power as a woman to create change in your life and in the world around you is going to be diffused. And I want to see women empowered with their bodies to you know, get the health that they deserve, but also so they can go just crush it, you know, wherever they want to.
Amazing. I mean, I'm just so passionate. I read a great book. I don't know if you've seen it, Her Blood is Gold. I read that like 15 years ago. And it was, you know, just about all of this and really pulling back that power and relating in a totally different way. So I want to just ask, because I do have a lot of clients that, you know, most of my women are in their 30s, maybe late 20s, early 40s, but this conversation about, you know, we've built these careers and this is me, you know, built this strong, vibrant, beautiful life and full career and multidimensional global And now we want to settle down and have a family and call in that partner and create babies. And so what are some tips to, I think, help us? I know in your book I was reading, which I loved, about, the difference between feminine and masculine energy, and just some practical tools for women to create that space for a child, or just to open up into a more feminine perspective. What would you recommend for people, which can help aid in fertility as well?
Well, I think it's a two-pronged approach, right? First, we want to make sure that you're doing everything right with your food. If you know you're kind of going to defer motherhood until your late 30s, early 40s, then I want you like super vigilant in your 20s and 30s, eating to support your hormonal health, because the sooner you start, the longer you can preserve your fertility naturally.
Right.
Yeah, and there's I think in chapter 8 of the book, I give my list of the foods you must be eating on a daily, weekly basis to do that. So definitely start doing that.
Yeah,
from an energetic standpoint.
Foods.
I know, and they're yummy, and it's so easy to incorporate. It's not like any weird food that you have to be eating.
Right.
And then from an energetic standpoint, feminine energy-wise, it's this idea, again, of recognizing that just the mere practice of aligning with your cycle will set you perfectly up to be a vessel for conception, right? Because this is an idea of expanding your container and allowing the creation matrix to work through your body. So instead of waiting until, here, what bothers me and what I see as a point of frustration for a lot of women is they kind of go through their life until the moment where they want to become mothers, kind of disconnected from their bodies, from their feminine. Then all of a sudden they want to become mothers or get pregnant, and they feel disjointed. And rather than go through that and do that to yourself, where you could instead spend 10, 15 years curating a different energy balance inside of yourself that's already there, so that it's just an effortless transition, which is how it's meant to be, right? You go from having this dynamic cycle monthly, right, where you're holding space to give birth to your life, to flowing into a space where you're creating life and holding space for that new being to come through you. And it's the same thing. There's no distinction between the two. And my passion is just to bring women back to the simple elegance of this. It's not this complicated thing. And one of the things I love about the fact that I base all of this on heavy science is because when you look at the science should be universally elegant and unifying, right? Einstein shared that with us in all of the different theories that he put out, is that there should be one explanation, one way to define and explain a phenomenon. So it wouldn't make sense that you would do something completely distinct and different to conceive that you would do to get hormonally healthy with your cycle. That's not the way nature would set it up, right? Because your body is still your body wherever you are. So I love that the protocol takes a woman through from, her early 20s to her early 40s, like whatever she's doing in her reproductive life cycle, it should be one protocol that addresses it all. And that's what I found in 10 years of clinical practice. Whether you have menstrual issues, fertility issues, low energy, low libido, it's one food and lifestyle plan, not 17.
Right.
Is great.
Yeah, and it's common sense too. And it's just, but really to empower ourselves in that way. I want to just, I know we don't have a ton of time, but I really want to touch on the subject of sex because, and I love in your book how you talk about, the recipe for pleasure and just inviting this in, because this has such a, obviously, a direct relationship to our womb and our feminine empowerment, our relationship with sensuality, with our body, with our sexuality, with our relationship with our partners. Yeah. So can you just talk a little bit and expand it into our sexuality and, whether it's your recipe for pleasure and inviting that in, or the relationship between the masculine and feminine. But I just want to touch on that a little bit because I know it's something that a lot of people, are working with, obviously.
Well, for me, I always come back to the dynamic cycle that's going on in our bodies. And one of the things that I know about being a woman and working with women is that we struggle with this tension that we feel like we're supposed to feel the same way all month long.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
we think that, and then we're met with the reality that we don't feel the same way all month long. And when that comes into the realm of sexuality and our sexual self-expression, it can be a little bit of a confusing situation. If you're expecting your body to be in a perpetual state of turn on and ready to go and easy orgasms and feeling like in the mood all month long, you're kind of working with a blind eye to the fact that there's this undercurrent of a reality of hormonal fluctuations that actually shifts your sexual pattern 1 week per month, right? So you have a 4-week sexual pattern, which I break down in the book. And it's so wonderful. If you have a partner, you can plan like there's a week during the month where you need very little foreplay versus another week where you need a lot of foreplay, and another week out of the month where you may not want to be having sex, and other week where it's a dry week and you need to be using aloe cadabra, whatever it is. You have to work with, and your sexual appetite might be different week over week. And so many people find themselves sexually frustrated with or without a partner, and having this information about your physiology, your biochemistry, your neurochemistry, it empowers you instead of like a silly, random, arbitrary date night. If for example, I'm recently married, right, and I've been with my man for several years, and like he knows where I am in my cycle. I always joke he could teach these classes by now, right? But he knows where I am in my cycle. And we have different kinds of sex based on where we are, right? For me, because, like right now, for example, I'm ovulating. So the kind of sex that I want to be having right now is just like passionate, yummy, delicious. But next week, if I were still home, which I'm going to be traveling to come see you in LA, if I were still home, I'd be my luteal phase, and I would want, more massive extended foreplay to bring me to, orgasmic states before we have, the actual intercourse, because that's how I'm going to be most maximally pleasured. And since he knows that, he's always set up to win in bed with me.
And I think this is such an important subject. I mean, I want to do like a whole conference on this with the masculine, feminine, relating in partnerships. Because for me, in my own relationships, it's really important to, and I think this is a huge piece of the work of piercing through any shame or guilt, or as you said, like the mysterium around the menstrual cycle. I mean, this is a fact of life. The fact is men also have natural ebb and flow as well.
Yeah. So, men really actually, you know what? I get the easiest. Men love this conversation. They're like, oh, thank God. Of course women should know, because, a man would absolutely, if he had this much going on.
Information,
he would have, there would be institutions dedicated to it.
Right.
And, and they totally get it. It's a non-question for them.
It's logical.
They observe just how much it affects us and affects their relationship with us, and they want us to be empowered. They want us to know about it.
They want us to be pleasured. They want to pleasure us. So,
they want to win. If you're in a relationship with a man, they want to win with you.
Right.
And the only way you can have a man win with you is if you tell him what your recipe is. Right. And that has to do with your hormones, and it has to do with your preferences, and it has to do with your own ability to know how your body works.
Yeah, one of the first sort of rites of passage when I'm starting in a new relationship is I make an appointment with my gynecologist. We both go in together. We have just really frank, open conversations about, menstrual cycle, fertility, birth control, sexuality, sexual health. And so it just peels away all of, sort of the, stigma around it. And now we're both in the conversation, and it's really building a partnership, which is what you want. And I think for people, in relationship or dating, if you can't be having this conversation, or you're hesitating to have this conversation with your partner, male or female, then you need to be asking yourself, is this really a right partner for you if you can't be that transparent and open and communicative?
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. I think women need to take care of their lady parts as much as they can.
Yeah.
and enlist their partners to do the same.
Exactly. Enroll. And it's just empowering all the way around. So thank you so much. It's been such an honor.
Oh my God, we could chat about all this for
I know. It was funny when I was putting this together. I really want to do a telecall with you and like maybe do a whole hour and really dig into this because there's just so much material here. Thank you so much for bringing this forth. You're the perfect, midwife for this. Just creatrix. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I've been a fan of yours for years, and I just want to encourage you all. Please buy the book. It's called Woman Code right here.
Yeah.
And go to the website. It's Flow Living, FLO living.com. And then next Tuesday, April 30th. Alisa has her LA book launch. So for those of you guys that are in Southern California, come out. I'm co-hosting it. I'm going to be there. I'm so excited. I'm so happy for you. It's at DKNY LA. So all the information's below in the blog. But come out Tuesday, April 30th. And then anything else you want to leave us with before we...
Oh, just if there's anything that's happening with your hormonal health and you need support, come to the website. And as a gift to all of you in the community with Ashley, we'd be thrilled to offer you like a 30-minute consult on the house.
Oh, that's so generous.
Yeah. Come and, we don't want any woman, every woman deserves to feel great all month long and all lifelong. So I want every woman to experience that new normal of health. And if you have any of these issues going on or you know a girlfriend who's suffering, send her to the website and hook her up with the free call, and we'll take care of you and your ovaries.
Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing resource that you've built. Again, it's cutting edge, this online forum and platform for women to come together, and just so many resources there. So flowliving.com. Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you in LA next week.
Thanks. Talk to you soon. Bye, ladies.
Thank you.